Hi, this is Kenny Albert. You're listening to the Broadway Hat Podcast with your host, Kyle Hall, the number one podcast for all things Rangers hockey.
Welcome back to the Broadway Hat Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hall, and the New York Rangers are absolutely on fire right now. 7 straight wins for the Rangers ever since Jacob Trouba threw his helmet against the boards and the Rangers got embarrassed on home ice against the Chicago Blackhawks 2 weeks ago. The Rangers have completely turned their season around, winning 7 straight. They've won, they're 8-1-1 in the last 10 games. They find themselves just 3 points back of first place now with the Devils on a losing streak. Crazy enough, the other team that's the only team hotter than the Rangers right now is Carolina Hurricanes, who are they're chasing the standings right now, who are 9-0-1. So the Rangers and Hurricanes are red hot, but I mean, this is a streak that the Ranger fans wanted. I mean, a streak the Rangers needed. This is the team that I think most people thought they'd see this season. And, I mean, they're getting contributions up and down the lineup. During the streak, Panarin's got 12 points. Trocheck has 10. Mika's got 9. Fox has got 7. Keandre Miller, who's finally turning his season around, has got 7 points, scored one of the prettiest goals you'll ever see a defenseman score. On a breakaway, gets taken down, gets back up again, scores the goal. It was an unbelievable goal. It's one of those goals at the end of the year you'll see on every highlight reel at the Rangers show. It was just incredible. He's got 7 points per game. Jacob Trouba, who obviously has had a lot of struggles this season, he really showed his captainship with that whole explosion on the ice, just the throwing the helmet, the fighting, everything that's kind of get that team going, because they were dead. They were dead in the water. That team had no energy. He had post-game comments saying, it's time to step up. You can't just go out there for a twirl. You got to play with some effort and some heart. And listen, the Rangers listened to him because he fired him up. He's got 5 points in the 7 games too, and he scored his first 2 goals this season. The kid line clicking, 6 points for I think all the kids have 6 points with Kakko and Chytil at 4 goals. Now the whole thing now is Philip Chytil's injury scare now. Took a late hit in Chicago, which we've now found out that Lafferty will not get suspended or even a fine for, which is ridiculous. Was not penalized on the play either. Takes a late hit from him, leaves the game. Now it comes down to, did he leave the game precautionarily? Did they keep him out because Rangers were up by a couple of goals? Didn't need him back in there? Or is he hurt again? He's speculated had a concussion, which everyone pretty much assumes because he came back with a tentative visor after he had the last quote-unquote upper body injury when he got hit in the head. This will be 2 concussions in a little over a month. And the second concussion, when you have that, is usually a much longer time to come back from. And unfortunately, you don't want all of a sudden this be an issue for the rest of his career as well. So if it is a concussion, which I really hope it's not, I hope it is a shoulder or something injury from hitting the boards awkwardly. If it is a head injury, Chytil could be gone for a while, which stinks because the kid's really, really turning it around this season. 25 games. He's got 8 goals and 9 assists for 17 points. He leads all the Rangers forwards with a plus 10 plus minus in the season. He's really been, the kids have stepped up this year, not as much as I think some people thought they would, but they're starting to play much better. But Chytil's been by far the most consistent of the 3 of them. And Gallant's moved him around the lineup, up and down the lineup, and every time he moves into a line, that line gets rolling. So he's been a huge catalyst for the Rangers this year. Over some periods where they've really not played well, he's been one of the better players. So if they do lose Chytil for an extended amount of time, that could be a big issue for the Rangers, especially down the middle where they're weak. I mean, the weak down the middle, Johnny Brodzinski has done a good job now filling in as a 4th-line center since they sent Ryan Carpenter down to Hartford. But now you're moving Barclay Goodrow back to a 3rd-line center role probably, and then you're also missing that key line that's been playing so well together. So be interesting to see what Gallant does with the lines as he split the kids back up again. Does Kravtsov get a shot of a top 6 role? Who the hell knows? Who knows what is coming down the line? All I hope is that Philip Chytil, if it's just a couple games, miss a couple games and he's back in the lineup, I just hope it's not a concussion. It's not a long-term injury for him, especially this year. While every time the guy starts to really turn it on, some kind of injury pops up. It's been, it's rough. And the last injury, he was rolling right before that too. So hopefully he's back on the ice soon because Rangers are finally starting to see him come to, really turn into a very good player. And he's a clutch goal scorer. He's got 2 game-winning goals this year, which I think is second most on the team. So I mean, he's been playing extremely well. I mean, the other guy who's back into shape is Igor Shesterkin. He is back to being the old world goaltender that he is. He's got 6 of 7 wins on his winning streak. He's got a 1.80 goals allowed, a 9.39 save percentage. So he's back to Vezina Igor, and that's what the Rangers need. And if he gets back to somewhat of that level, I mean, he struggled earlier this year in some games, and he's looked great in other games, but he's really locked in right now. He gets on a run like this like he did last year. I mean, the Rangers are they're in good shape. So, I mean, Igor's been outstanding after being really hard on himself, especially after that Devils loss a couple weeks ago where, I think he gave 5 goals in that game, and he was really hard on himself. And he's really put together a good streak. How about Jimmy Vesey? 3 goals in this streak, 2 goals against his former team in Toronto. He's been playing outstanding. So, I mean, all these pieces for the Rangers are starting to come into place. Guys like Jimmy Vesey, who you didn't think would be contributors, maybe didn't make the team. He's been playing up and down the lineup wherever Galani is. Has been a great penalty killer. Has been great in the defensive zone for the Rangers. Been the best defensive forward for them this year. And, guys like Zibanejad, who's obviously having a good year keeping it together. But Trocheck, I love the line of Trocheck, Kreider, and Vesey. I just like that a lot. Just as a third line. That's, really deep as the Rangers lineup. Now, I don't know if Goodrow's going to stay on that top line. He's played very well up there with Zibanejad and Panarin, but it seems like Kravtsov would be the better choice there, but who knows? And we'll get into this. Our great guest, my good friend Colin Stephenson, does an unbelievable job covering the Rangers for Newsday. Joins us again this week. It's always great to have him on. He gives such good insight. Him and I talk all about this, all about the lines, all about what Kravtsov's deal is, a lot about Kravtsov, about what his deal is, what he thinks. Obviously he's destined for a top 6 role, but Gallant just isn't ready to give it to him yet. So it's very interesting to see how that's all going to play out. And the Rangers right now, 3 points back at first place. You're right back on the playoff hunt. The playoffs start today. The Rangers are, they'll be a 3 seed, in their division, the third, number 3 in the Metro. So they're good shape coming into. You always look at the new year to see where your team is. And right now the Rangers are sitting at 18-10-5 at 41 points. And you have 2 games here before the little small Christmas break. So you have the Penguins tonight in Pittsburgh. I'm sure Pittsburgh fans will be very happy to see Igor Shesterkin and the Rangers back in Pittsburgh after last year's Game 7 heroics by Artemi Panarin in overtime to send the Rangers on to the next round and send the Penguins back home packing. So I'm sure that the Pittsburgh fans will be excited to have the Rangers back in their building. Should be a fun one tonight. And then Thursday night, always fun, Rangers Islanders at MSG. So 2 tough games, 2 divisional games before the Christmas break. It doesn't get much easier after that because you got the Capitals, who are right now very hot, coming into MSG next Tuesday following Christmas. And then they do their annual Florida trip for New Year's and play Tampa on the 29th, and then the Panthers on the 1st of the year. So, and then you got Carolina right after that. So the Rangers have a little tough stretch here, but then before you get to some softer teams like the Canadiens and the Blue Jackets, and in January. But it's gonna be a tough sledding for the Rangers. I think they have the toughest schedule in the NHL. I think I saw that someone posted that they have the toughest schedule in the NHL from now through the end of the year. But hey, listen, the Rangers have beaten some very good teams this last week. They've shown that they can play with the big teams, and they are one of the big boys in the NHL. So they're back to being these quote-unquote contenders that everyone thought they were. And I think, we went from 2 weeks ago with the loss to Chicago with Elliott Freeman and crew saying the Rangers aren't ready to make the run and they're not going to go up to Panarin, to now 7 in a row. These gave Chicago a beatdown, a little payback from a couple weeks ago last night. And it looks like, they're back right in the playoff race. And, of course, Colin and I talk about that and who are some of the trade guys they can look at and what holes they need to fill before the playoff start. And we also take a look at, guys like Sammy Blais, like what's going on with him. Obviously he's a big question mark going forward for the Rangers to see where he fits into the lineup and if he stays in the lineup, and where Kravtsov ends up and a guy like Julien Gauthier ends up. It's a great conversation with Colin. But before we send to an interview with Colin, I do want to tell you about our sponsors over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Hockey fans, light the lamp this winter at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win and they get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals they'll be scored, for even more of a shot at a bigger payout. So go and download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Broadway and bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and win $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code Broadway. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Please see show notes for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or if you live in New York, please call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. All right, we're now joined by my good friend. He's back again. Colin Stephenson does an excellent job covering the New York Rangers for Newsday. Colin, thanks so much for jumping back on with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's a fun time to talk Rangers.
Yeah, 7-game winning streak. Right now, you can say they're probably one of the hottest teams in hockey. They've beaten every hot team in hockey, the Devils and Maple Leafs this last week. I think the only team hotter than them is unfortunately the Hurricanes, who the last 10 games, the Rangers are 8-1-1 and Carolina's 9-0-1. So they've actually lost ground to Carolina in the last 10 games, but 3 games back of first place. This is the run I think every Ranger fan was hoping for and what they needed, obviously, after the slow start.
Yeah, it's when you looked at the schedule, it was a daunting portion of the schedule, right? And I talked to I was talking to Barclay Goudreau about this, just about the run in general, and he brought that up. They had gone through their period of just not getting results, and they kept telling us in the locker room afterwards, no, we played well enough. We thought we played well enough. We didn't get the breaks. And if we keep playing like that, we'll get the breaks eventually and it'll turn. And that I think is ultimately what's happened. And it happened to turn at a time when, they were just going through a daunting portion of the schedule. Cause when you looked at it, they were going on the road to go face Vegas, which is, the number 1 team in the West, and then Colorado, which is the defending Cup champions, and then coming back home to play, the Devils, who were super hot, and the Maple Leafs, who were even hotter. And so that was you looked at those 4 games and you're like, wow, that's a serious gauntlet that they were going to go through, and they made it through, and they got some breaks along the way. I mean, Vegas played without Jack Eichel and played without Alex Pietrangelo, and Colorado was missing half their team. I think they were missing 9 regulars, which is legit half their team. Yeah. And they still needed a shootout to beat them. But then the wins over New Jersey and Toronto were mighty impressive. So, they go on that little run, and they've won 7 in a row, and they at the back end of the run they had Philly and Chicago were down in the standings, and so they took care of business. But again, they had to take care of business. So, and that's been the thing about the run is it's not like they're blowing teams out of the water every night. A lot of those wins that they've had have been games that, maybe they didn't play so great. Maybe they got a break here and there, and, you're not quite sure how they did it, but they found a way. And so you're right. I think this is a run that we were expecting from them, that they needed to make, and they've made it. And so now I think, you look at their record and where they are in the standings and you say, okay, yeah, this is better.
I think it was after the Devils game, I believe, in your article, you were talking to Phil Chytil, and he was saying, we were finally starting to catch some breaks now, and some of the games that we should have won early in the year, we didn't. And now we're winning these games. And I think you look back, I think they lead the league in post hit with 32 posts. You can make a lot of excuses for them, but they did have bad puck luck, and maybe this is finally turning around.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yes. And they were right. And if you've played a long time, you understand that this is how it is, right? I mean, you're not gonna, like a hitter in baseball who hits 300 is not gonna get 3 hits in every 10 at bats. I mean, you're gonna have hot streaks, you're gonna have cold streaks, you're gonna have line drives that get caught, you're gonna have bloopers that bounce 38 times and get through the hole. that's kind of how it is. And at the end of the season, it all evens out, and you end up where you're supposed to be. And that's what they were basically telling us is, and it was difficult in some of those times because it stings, when you feel like you've played well enough and you haven't won. There's nothing really else that you can say other than, hey, if we keep playing this way, we're going to get the breaks. Eventually it's going to turn. But, they were correct. And they kept playing that way. They got the breaks, they've turned. You think of, I think specifically of Kakko, he went through a stretch where he was creating so many chances and getting nothing. And now he's got 4 goals in his last 6 games, so like his goalposts he was hitting, he's not hitting the goalpost anymore. He's putting it in. So yes, so a lot of that has turned around for them, and we'll see. And now everything seems to have fallen into place. Like, all the things that people were complaining about, nobody wanted to say it, but Igor wasn't quite the same guy he was last year, right? Nobody really wanted to say it because, we understood that last year was an unbelievable year for him, and we couldn't expect him to be quite that good. And he was their best player last year, and he's still going to be their best player this year. And so nobody quite wanted to put that on him, but he wasn't quite the same. And he's getting back to being better now. I mean, he's his last, 5-6 games that he's played ever since that first New Jersey game, I think he's been better. And I think that's made a difference. And then, he went through the thing with he put the kid line together a while back. It didn't really work. He broke them back up. He put them back together. Now it seems to be working. So, things have turned. Even Jacob Trouba now, who I know has been the ire of the fans' dismay for a little while because he's having such a bad season. He's got a goal in each of the last 2 games. So, even he's coming around now. So, everything seems to have fallen into place for right now as they're heading into the Christmas break. And they've pointed, they've been talking about Christmas break for a couple weeks now. I remember talking to Sammy Blais a week or 2 ago. Then he was like, yeah, we've got 6 games left before the break. And, we're going to try and win them all. And I think we can do it. And, so he was looking at it from way far out, but now they're almost here. They've got 2 games before the Christmas break as we speak. And they've won 7 in a row. And, if they can, I don't know if they're going to win both of these 2 games before the break, but, if they can even split them, if they can get 2 points out of these 2 games, then I think, they'll have finished up quite well, and they'll be where we expected them to be.
Yeah, I think right where, yeah, exactly. Like you said, going into New Year's, you expect them to be in a playoff spot, and it looks like they'll hopefully be, barring a drastic collapse in the last couple of games here, they'll be right there. You and I spoke after Trouba got named captain, and you and I both thought it was, from what we heard and what you've obviously been around the team, you thought it was a good choice, and he was taking on that leadership role. And that just embarrassing loss against Chicago, you can see, there's a lot of, like, what do you say? You have to go out there for a stroll around the ice. So you got to play with emotion. He had the fight against Kachuk the game before when the team was struggling. Then he had the huge hit and the fight against Chicago, the toss of the helmet, and he did not hold back in the locker room. And it was, reading your article again that night, it was, it was the most captainly thing that he's done yet as a Ranger.
Yeah.
Is those quotes that he was saying after the game. He was pissed, huh?
Yeah, he was. And like a lot of the players, obviously they're going to stick up for each other, right? And we know that what we've seen from him on the ice, he had a great year last year. People underplay like how great he was last year with all those big hits and the fights and all. And he hasn't been having that this year. But like, I think these guys stick up for him, and they all point to, I think it was in the St. Louis game, whatever. It was those games where Trouba lost his mind and started fighting, guys left and right. I think it was St. Louis. Didn't he have a fight in that game too? I forget. But they all point to that as kind of, a turning point for them, like it really kind of sparked them and stuff. And you're right. It's a captain thing to do. And he knows as well as anybody that he hasn't been playing as well as he did last year. Right. We've written about, they've acknowledged kind of to a degree that, he had some sort of an injury that was bothering him early in the season. They've not said whether it was upper or lower or what it was, and they never really announced it, but it's sort of like when he missed enough practices and we finally asked them about, they're like, yeah, there's something going on, and I think personally, and it's just speculation more than anything, but I think that maybe this injury has limited him and is playing a part in why he hasn't had a strong season, right? I think, I think he's had trouble where, maybe he's gripping the stick and, guys are taking, he's having trouble turning the puck over. So that suggests maybe he's got a problem with one of his hands, maybe, or something like that. And so maybe that has something to do with why he's not playing great. But he's trying to make up for it in other ways, right? In leadership ways, in fighting if that's what's necessary, and in doing all those other things. Because he knows he's having bad puck luck. He's even last night, or as we speak, it's Monday, right? So they played Chicago last night and on Sunday night, and even in that game, which the Rangers won 7-1, the one goal they gave up, went in off of Trouba's stick, right? I mean, the centering pass, and he tries to knock it away, and it deflects off his stick and goes in. So, he's just not getting great puck luck this season. But again, that's one of those things that can turn around. And if it's just him having bad puck luck and everybody else is having good puck luck, then it's fine, and then the team will be fine. But yes, he is trying to motivate the team and spur the team on and do whatever he can do, because if he's not scoring goals and he's making mistakes and he's giving up goals at the other end, he's got to find some way of making himself valuable, and that's a way that he's made himself valuable.
Yeah, no, I think when he threw the helmet, it was kind of like, all right, what, this is kind of like the breaking point for his team this year, and then that kind of like spurred into that post game, and I'm like, maybe this is a good thing. And then they come out, and then obviously they haven't lost since then. So hopefully it did wake everyone up on that bench. But another injury that we could be looking down here is from last night, is Chytil takes that little bit of that late hit there from Lafferty, which was clearly a dirty hit. I was looking for the Rangers to do something to the guy afterwards, because then he hit Igor right after that. But I guess Chytil, they didn't come out and say it was a concussion. They said upper body, but it's, highly speculated that it was a concussion early this year. He came back with the visor and the tint and everything, which would tell you it was a concussion. And you got to hope that maybe they kept him out of the game last night because they were winning by so much, and maybe it's not putting him back out there. But as soon as the guy gets it going, it seems like every time he gets on a roll, an injury pops up with him, which is tough because he's probably the one kid of the quote unquote kid line who's taken the biggest jump this year of anyone.
Yeah, no, I 100%. Everything you said is right on. Like, this guy has been here. What is this? His started 18-19. So
he's like the third longest tenure Ranger now. That's crazy for you to think about that. Yeah.
His fifth season, right? So, and it seems like every time he gets going, he gets hurt. And that's just bad luck. I mean, like, sometimes you look at a guy and he gets hurt because maybe he's not in condition, and there's really nothing you can do. This is a freak injury. Yes, you're right. They won't use the C word. He missed some games early on in the season with what was an upper body injury, and we know that he got hit in the head. In that particular instance, he missed those games, and when he came back, he was wearing the tinted visor, and he, some of the things that he, again, wouldn't use the C word. But the tinted visor was a tip off, and a couple of the other things. And I talked to him about that visor. Actually, initially the visor he used initially was Andrew Kopp's old visor. They gave that to him, and it worked. And that he used that for a game or two and changed and got a little a different sort of shade. That was a little darker. This was a little lighter. So that was a tip off that was a concussion. This sure looks like a concussion. Again, not a doctor, not a team executive. I can't tell you that that's for sure. But if it is, if the other one was, and this one is, then that's two concussions in like a month, right? And that's obviously not what you want. So I'm with you. I feel like at the time he went out last night, it was 3-1 early in the second period. And they didn't see any real reason to bring him back. They brought him to the room, whatever. I'm sure they put him through the protocol. Shortly after that, they go up 4-1. And there's really no reason to bring him back. So hopefully it's, precautionary. And hopefully he's okay. But, given what we saw, I mean, it just didn't look good. And now I think, I was talking to someone about this earlier. Now you have to wonder if all these things that were falling into place, we just spoke about, everything seems to be falling into place. You take one of those things out, does it really throw off throw everything off balance, and does it throw the train off the track, and that obviously remains to be seen. We'll see what happens if he plays in Pittsburgh on Tuesday, and if he doesn't play, how do they realign? Because obviously, Julien Gauthier, who was the scratch last night, is not a centerman. So if he comes into the lineup, then somebody's going to have to go play center where Chytil was. And so they're going to have to make some changes within the lineup. So we'll see. And we'll see if that throws anything off track.
Gallant could be forced to put Kravtsov on the top line with Panarin, which he seems like he's very tentative to do. The other day he comes out and he goes, what does he say? He goes, I know what the lines are, but I don't want to do it yet. It's like, if you know what the answer to the test is, just write it down. There's no reason to.
Well, so here's the thing. Like he clearly wants Kreider to play with Zibanejad, and he wants Trocheck to play with Panarin, and he wants the kid line to be the third line. That's in his mind. That's what he thinks. But he had that going for a little bit, and things were, he had to make some changes, and he had to change things up, and he found this combination, and it's working right now. Right? He's got Panarin and Zibanejad together. He's got Kreider down on the third line playing with Trocheck. He's got the kids playing in the second spot. And so what's he going to do? He's not going to break it up. It's working. So that's what he was telling us, is like, these aren't the lines. These are the lines for today. I'm going to stay with these until they stop working, and then I'm going to go back to the real line. And the real lines, are going to be Kreider and Zibanejad together, which he actually hinted at that he might go back to that. So, and then I presume he'll go back with Trocheck and Panarin, and he'll have the kids as a third line. But that's him, and he's an old school guy. He doesn't want to change, doesn't like to play young players. The kids are fine, because they've forced their way into the lineup. Kravtsov's really been interesting, though, because Gallant just doesn't seem to trust him. And, and he got hurt early in the year a couple times. And I think that was, frustrating to Gallant. But I think he overdid it, sitting him out 8 straight games. And, the first 2, he had a tooth problem and he had to have oral surgery. But then the last 6 were like healthy scratches. And I don't think the kid needed to 6 games in a row. I think that was a little much. Then he was playing, played 4 games in a row, looked pretty good. Then you pull him out. So we'll see now. And we'll see how long Chytil is out, if he's out. Obviously, if he is out, then Kravtsov's got to go somewhere in that top 9, probably in the top 6. He likes to play him with Panarin. And we'll see if he does it that way, but then somebody has to play with Kakko and Lafreniere. So, maybe Trocheck goes into that spot with those 2 guys, and then somebody has to play between Vesey and Kreider, and then so maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that would be Gaudreau. I don't know. So we'll see how he realigns it, and we'll see if those lines work as well as these lines do. But yes, you're correct. At some point, he's going to go back to Kreider Zibanejad. He's going to go back to Trocheck Panarin.
I just love it because he gets away from it, and then, like you said, he'll go back to like the Trouba and Miller. He split them up for the game and a half or what it was, and he couldn't wait to get them back together. He took the first opportunity he can get. He put them back together. He just loves those 2 together.
We talked to him. We asked him about that, I think in training camp or during the preseason, or something like it. It was early on, and he was like, "No, I don't want to split." Because we were wondering whether you might make a change in your top 4 because of Braden Schneider. Because now he's a guy who clearly could handle a top 4 role if he wanted to, and because the 6th guy, whether it was going to be Zach Jones or whether it was going to be Libor Hayek or whether it was going to be someone else, we were wondering whether you might mix up your pairs to accommodate that 6th guy. And he was adamant that he liked Lindgren and Fox together, and he liked Trouba and Miller together. And then, the 3rd pair was going to be Schneider and somebody else. And so, yeah, he stayed with that, and he doesn't like to deviate from that. And he did, you're right, he did for a while. Trouba was playing poorly and made some mistakes. And I think, Gord Murphy, who runs the defense, realized that, he needed to, he needed to do something. And so they moved Braden Schneider up into Trouba's spot, with Keandre, and then kind of did that. And so that was the thing for, I think, 3 games, because I keep track of this stuff. I think there were 3 games that those pair that Trouba was on a third pair. And the funny thing is, I wrote about it, and that was going to be my early night story one night, and that was the game where he broke them up. So then I had to scrap that story and compose a completely different story. So that story never actually saw the light of day, never actually made it on the website or anything like that. I wrote this story about, the Schneider playing with Miller and how they enjoyed playing with each other and all this kind of stuff. And then that was the night that he broke it up. And so I had to kill that story. But yeah, so, and then recently, what was it? In the Devils game, I think, when they were down 2-0, 5 minutes in, that's when he changed the lines, and that's when he changed the deep partnership. But then the next game, he put them right back together. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't like, changing from something that he knows has worked in the past.
And then, you and I talked about the want to see maybe Keandre with Fox late in games. He's only done it like 2 or 3 times where he's putting Keandre up with that Fox. Cause most of the time, obviously when they're pulling the goalie there at the end, they have the 5 forwards on there, but he's had a couple of times where he's put Keandre up there. And you and I talked about how we were hoping to see him take the next step, Keandre. He got to a slow start, but he is rolling now, and he scored, one of the prettiest goals you ever see a defenseman. Unbelievable. The man he's so fast, and he's got such good hands for defensemen. It's incredible.
Yeah. So it's you mentioned how fast he is. I can tell you that I watched hockey a long time, and I've never seen what he did in that. I've never seen that. I've never seen a guy get tripped, fall down, get up, and still keep going on the breakaway and then score. I've never seen that. Like, normally a guy gets tripped and he falls down, and you see the referee's arm go up, and you're like, okay, that's it, the play's over. But he actually got back up and then scored. So yeah, he's having himself a run right now. And yeah, it'd be interesting. I would be interested to see him playing with Fox, but Fox and Lindgren work together so well that
it's tough to break them up, because Lindgren's been playing great too. Lindgren's playing fine. He's playing his normal game, so
it makes more sense to keep those two together. But then you just need Trouba to kind of pick up his game so that he's not dragging Keandre down. Because I think to a degree, I think Keandre has been covering for him, and I think Trouba's going to have to, pick it up now. If whatever's been bothering him is not bothering him anymore, and he's been practicing when, he hasn't been missing practices, so maybe it's not bothering him as much anymore. Maybe that's a good thing. But at least we know that Schneider can play with Keandre, because Schneider's having a good year too.
He's having a really good year. He's having a really good year. Yeah.
Goals. We thought he scored. Actually, they gave him credit for the 7th goal against Chicago. They ended up taking it away and giving it to Johnny Brodzinski, but Schneider's having a good year too. So, I think they're okay. They do need to figure out who that 6th defenseman is, that third pair lefty. If it's not going to be Trouba, they need to figure out who that guy is. Whether it's, I doubt very much that it's going to be Ben Harper. I don't know at this point, given the fact that Harper's played 3 games in a row, if it's going to be Libor. I'm guessing it's not going to be Zach Jones. So if it's not going to be Zach Jones, it's not going to be Libor, and we don't think it's going to be Ben Harper, then who's it going to be? So that's a problem they've got to solve.
I didn't have Ben Harper my bingo card in training camp I had a lot of guys. I did not have him down as the 6th defenseman for the Rangers this year, and they quietly send Zach Jones down. Did you hear anything for that? I don't think I saw anything from Chris Drury or anyone's comment about why they send him down. Obviously, him and Libor were kind of going back and forth. They were playing time, but they just send him down, and then we heard nothing else.
Yeah. So what Gallant said the next day or whenever it was that we spoke to him was because we all assume that, okay, you've had this battle going and now you've chosen Libor and you've decided to send this kid down. And he was like, no, that's not it at all. We saw an opportunity to send him down. Hartford was playing a bunch of games, and instead of going back and forth and having guys sit out, let's just send him down and have him play in a bunch of games. Okay, but that was 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah, I mean,
so and he's still there. So obviously, like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really been following what's going on in Hartford. My recollection is that they're not doing well. They're not winning a lot of games. I'm curious as to whether they would bring up Matthew Robertson because, style wise, you'd figure that why shouldn't he get a shot at that number 6 spot? But there must be a reason why he's not up here and Ben Harper is. Initially, when they brought up Harper, what they had suggested to us was that he was coming up to be the 7th defenseman. And so Libor was going to get a run. He was going to be the 6th, and Harper was just going to come up as a veteran guy, be the 7th. That explained why it was Harper and not Robertson. But now that Harper's played 3 games in a row and they won all 3, I don't know if that means that Harper is a consideration as a 6th. I find that hard to believe, but this is where we are. So that's why I say that, I don't know if it's an urgent problem, but it is a problem that they're going to have to address at some point.
They're going to have to find a guy like Braun, like last year, a guy on a very small salary, but a veteran guy who could plug and play in that 6th spot, maybe kill some penalties for you. And basically not just be a turnstile and just kind of keep some pucks out of the net.
He is available, I'm told.
Braun, he's playing 7th defenseman. He played about 6 minutes in against the Rangers. He barely saw the ice.
He is available, but I think him being a right-handed shot would probably not be what they're looking for. They would probably, ideally you want to go back, and if you could go back in time and get, Mark Stahl of about 4 years ago, that's kind of what you want. A big guy, who's reliable, and has been around the block or two. That's probably what you're looking for.
So you heard it here first from Colin. The Rangers are interested in bringing back Mark Stahl, which will really make some Ranger fans happy. Hey, they'll take the heat off Trouba for a little bit. Tell you that much.
I mean, we'll see though. I mean, like, he's got obviously one was an empty net goal, but he scored a legit goal against Chicago. And again, maybe it's not legit because it's against Chicago, but we'll see. I mean, confidence is a thing that all of these guys need, and all of these guys mention as something that helps them be better. Even the veteran guys, it's not just a young guy thing. So if he's got 2 goals in 2 games, regardless of who we got him against or how they came about, maybe that'll help him be better.
Now, another guy that Ranger fans seem to be throwing a lot of hate behind is Sammy Blais. Yeah. Not off to the start that I think he probably wants, not off to the start the team thought he would get off to. And on MSG, you're at the game, so not sure how much MSG you watch, but Sam Rosen says, he's close to being 100% again, but he's still working his way there, indicating that he's not playing 100%. As a fan perspective, I look at that and say, if he's not 100%, why is he in the lineup every night? It's not like he's producing a ton. So why don't you just let them guy get healthy, send him out for a couple weeks, let him get healthy? Has he said anything to the writers about not being 100% or anything?
No, I mean, in fact, I spoke to him a week or 2 ago. I was trying to, I approached him about the fact that he hadn't scored a goal and was that bothering him. And, I talked to him at some length about that. No, I mean, he hasn't, we haven't asked him about the knee or anything like that in recent times. I mean, that was something I think when he first came back, it still was in the back of his mind, but I don't think I think he's what he is. Mm-hmm. I think he was a 4th liner in St. Louis. And I think, when he got to New York, I think he was on the verge of making, himself into a top 9, maybe even a top 6 guy. And then unfortunately for him, he had the knee injury and missed the rest of last season and it hasn't worked for him coming back. I think as a 4th line player, he's okay. I mean, he can go around, he hits people, which is, something that I know that Gallant appreciates, so he throws his, he's got a big body, 6'2" and 204 204 or so, 205, something like that. And, he goes around and he throws it around and hits people. But yeah, it's been 40 something games, man. Like, you got to get one. You got one in. You got to have me. I remember Elias Anderson had one going off his butt.
Yeah.
Like that. You got somehow. I mean,
But like last preseason, he looked so good. He looked like he was going to be an offensive player. Like he had a great shot. I mean, he's not. We don't even see him taking. Like he's not taking any shots this year. Like I don't know. I don't know what's. I mean, I know he's trying to score, but I don't.
Yeah, he came close. I think on the road trip. I think against Vegas. Because he and I talked about that on the road. I think it was specifically during that trip, and I think that Vegas game he had a lot of chances, and I thought it was really close, and then it's just kind of it was close. It never got there, and then now the moment's gone, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Now the issue that they have, and this is a Gallant thing too. Gallant likes guys to play in their primary position, other than Jimmy Vesey, who's playing on the right wing when he's a natural left wing. I think Gallant would prefer to have, like, he wants Lafreniere, for instance, on the left wing instead of on, like, we all think that Lafreniere's future on this team is playing right wing in the top six. And Gallant is reluctant to do that. He prefers to have him on the left wing. Kravtsov is a right winger. So remember, he went into the lineup a couple games ago. He went in for Blais, who was a left wing. And they played him on at left wing on the fourth line, which Gallant said to us, I know that's essentially said, I know that that's not where he belongs. But I guess that's the guy he took out, and that's where Kravtsov had to go in. And so now you look at a guy like Julien Gauthier, who is a right wing, natural right wing. He's a right-handed shot. He plays right wing. He's got a lot of speed, and he should be the right wing on the fourth line. But Kravtsov's in there, and so he's playing Kravtsov on the fourth line on the right wing, which means Gauthier is out. It's just kind of a mess, and I think it's the Kravtsov piece that he can't quite figure out where to put this guy and what to do with him. And Blais is, I think if he's going to be a fourth line winger and he's going to bang and crash bodies and stuff, if he plays 70 games, he's going to get one or two goals. I mean, I assume he's going to score at some point.
He's playing second power play too most nights too. He's out of his front net. Yeah, I'm like, why is Goodrow not out there at least?
So how much does that matter really? But now that Kravtsov in the lineup, then Kravtsov is going to get those second ice time. So, but I don't know. I mean, Kravtsov is the one. That's the one to keep an eye on. Where does he go? Especially now with, if Chytil's going to be out, then that's an opportunity to put Kravtsov in the top 9 or even the top 6, and move some people around. And then when Chytil comes back, then we'll see. But I think that's the puzzle that he's trying to figure out, because ultimately, as we spoke about, he wants Zibanejad and Kreider together. He wants Trocheck and Panarin together, and I think he wants the kid line together.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you look at those are 7 of your top 9 forwards, and so then who are the other 2 guys? Kravtsov, I think most of us would think should have a crack at being one of the other 2 guys, and then whether it's VC or Goudreau or whoever. But the Kravtsov thing, keep an eye on that and where he ends up.
Jimmy Vesey's been the biggest surprise all season. He's been great for them. He's everything they've asked him to do. He's done a good job killing penalties, been scoring goals. I mean, this is the Jimmy Vesey I thought we were getting the first time around.
Yeah, it's funny because fans want to rip on the guy, right? They want to rip on him. They want, they're always looking for somebody to scapegoat, and they really want to scapegoat Vesey, and they can't.
Yeah.
They want to scapegoat Vesey because he wasn't the first line player. He's playing up with Zibanejad and Kreider. But now on the third line, he's playing with Kreider and Trocheck. That's a strong third line. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I actually like that line a lot.
Yeah. He's getting some goals and he's making some plays, and people are like, you know what? You can't rip on Jimmy Vesey anymore. So you got to find somebody else to rip on. So it's gonna be Blais or whoever.
Listen, I got a VC jersey from the first go around. I'm a VC fan. I was hoping that he'd come back with vengeance, and he has. Yeah. I love the fact that he put the 2 goals up against Toronto. All the Maple Leaf Twitter people were going nuts about him. It was great. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
I said to him, I said, yeah, didn't you play for that team? He goes, yeah, for about 6 weeks.
Yeah. He shipped them to Vancouver really quick. Let's talk about Kravtsov, where he could end up. Obviously, every time the Rangers play Chicago in the last couple of weeks, there's been the rumors about Patrick Kane come back up.
Yeah.
Last night's shellacking has kind of led Chicago fans to saying, I think they're down on a 6-game losing streak. Listen, they had a little run to start the year off. They gave some hope, but this is what the team is. And, the rumor now, I think Emily Kaplan had it from ESPN that come New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, whatever, they're going to sit down with them and say, hey, where do you want to go? What direction you want to take this in? And, ESPN really played up last night with Panarin shooting the puck at Kane warm-ups and all the fiddlesticks before the game that happened, and then the two of them clowning around. And I had a buddy who covers the Blackhawks tell me, hey, Kravtsov looked great last night in his audition for Chicago. It seems like, Chicago fans want him. They think that, Ranger fans have some thoughts about him, but, for the rest of the league, maybe people still see him as, oh, he's that top 9, good, young Russian forward that can score. And that goal last night, that could, put a little thought into Chicago fans. Like, this is the guy we want. Yeah. Could he possibly be in a deal? You think they trade him?
Absolutely. I think absolutely. I think he could be. If that would get it done, then why not? He can't figure out what to do with him right now. He's played 12 games and he has 2 goals. So that's not bad, right? I think we know Patrick Kane would probably like to play with Panarin, and Panarin would certainly like to have Patrick Kane back. So if that could be part of the package to get Patrick Kane, nobody would give it a second thought. Now, in the beginning of the year, we were talking about maybe Kakko being that piece that went back there, and I don't know if I want to do that. Not for a guy who's going to be here for a couple of months, but a month or two and then playoffs. No, I wouldn't do that. But Kravtsov, I would, if it was me, I would do it. I'm sure most people would do it as well. And if Chicago's willing to settle for him or take him as part of the return for Patrick Kane, I don't see any reason why you would hesitate on that one.
No, if the Rangers are in a spot where they're a couple points back in the next month or so, you have those 2 first-round picks burn a hole in your pocket. And if he's the guy who gets it done, I think he just makes so much sense for the Rangers up front. And you saw the playoffs last year. You need to have scoring to go along with that depth that they have. And I think I know there's other guys out there, and there's going to be more teams that are going to be obviously gunning for him, but I think he's the perfect solution for the Rangers going forward for what they need, especially at that wing position where they're so light right now.
Right. No, we'll see. It's March 3rd is the deadline, so we still got a ways to go before that becomes a hot button issue.
Another trade, Ryan Reeves gets dealt. Obviously wasn't seeing the playing time he wanted to see. I kind of saw the writing on the wall there that Blais was going to be in that lineup every night. And, they were pushing Julien Gauthier, and, at the time Ryan Carpenter was in there every night. Did you hear from the team at all? Like, did you get any reaction from any players? Obviously he was a major leader in that locker room, him departing.
No, I didn't really talk to anybody about that. I think we all kind of saw it for what it was, he even said it himself. He was a leader. He was a beloved figure in that room, but if he's not playing, then it limits the amount of leadership he can provide. So, I think it's worked out for everybody. He seems to be doing well in Minnesota, and the Rangers cleared up a bunch of cap space, which is going to help them do whatever they're going to do in March.
I think it was something that I wrote about it way back in the summer. Like, you got to move probably Reeves out because of the money, and just him being a 4th-line player. It's a lot of money for a 4th-line player to go out there. But then you kind of look at it like at another scope. It's like, he's such a big leader on this team. And then all of a sudden they go on that losing streak. And right after he leaves, and you look at Minnesota, they've been taking off since he's gotten there. He's been the perfect solution for them. And the Rangers kind of lost him. It's like, oh, now the team lost, and then Trouba had that outburst, and it kind of got him back on track. But it was tough there. You're like, you lose the guy, your team's in the dumps, and all of a sudden he's going viral for doing the lineup read. And now he's skating around the ice last night like Santa Claus. And it's like, this character, that you had in your team, like, this is the guy you need right now, and this is the guy you gave up. But yeah, they needed to clear up cap space if they didn't want to do anything at the deadline.
They needed to clear cap space, and they wanted to get faster, and he was probably the slowest guy on the team. So
I mean, he's the perfect guy if you're gonna get rid of someone who's not fast and
I
has
mean,
money.
they appreciate what he gave them for the time he was here. It's not like it was easy for them to do, but I think it was necessary.
I also go back to the Blais thing. You talk about him with no goals. That's the one guy you can't rub your magic touch on. Every time you go ask some guy about scoring goals, they score a goal the next night. And I've told you many times to text me before the game starts who you talk to about it so I can get some money put into Vegas, make something out of this thing. And the other night you tweeted out, "Oh, hey, I talked to Chytil in the first period," and then boom, he scores a goal the next minute. I was very upset with you.
I spoke to Goudreau and he gets a goal. I was like, what is going on here? But no, it's funny. I was kidding with Chytil, last week or whatever. After he scored a goal in like 2 straight games, and I looked at him, I was walking out of the locker room after a practice. I go, Phil, you don't need me anymore. No, I tried with Sammy. I mean, and I even talked to him. I was like, I've had this effect on people, and we had a good laugh. No, I wasn't able to get it done for him, so I failed there.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you feel like, I talked to Chytil this morning to break his streak, and boom, he scores a goal. And he didn't get hot right after that.
Yeah.
You talk about Igor. Igor obviously was very tough on himself in the locker room. Very tough on himself. I forget what loss it was. He blamed himself. I think it was the Islander loss or Devils loss, whatever that was.
First Devils game, yeah.
And he's really turned it around since then. Like you said, he's back to, playing to a level of a 930 something save percentage and a 2.05 goals allowed in the last whatever games it's been, 6 games, 7 games since then. Would you agree with me that if he can keep this up, the Rangers have a chance, but it really goes on his play, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, it starts there anyway. I mean, he's not, these days, I don't think he's winning games by himself like he was the first 2 months of last season. I think other guys have picked some stuff up, and we'll see. Again, we talked about the Chytil thing now. If Chytil's going to be out for a while, does that throw him, off kilter a little bit? And if that makes a difference, but everything's slotted into place now. Adam Fox is doing what Adam Fox does. Trouba seems to be picking it up. Keandre, seems to have gone nuts in the last 6 or 7 games. Schneider and the kids, so I mean, everything seems to be in place now. Even that line we talked about, that Trocheck, VC Kreider line, I mean, I like it quite a bit, and I know you do too. So everything seems to be in place now. So it's not just Igor. He doesn't have to carry them by himself. But no, it definitely starts with him. If he's doing what they expect him to do and know he can do, then it gives them confidence to then go out and do what they can do.
Have you talked to Trocheck a lot at all? He seems like he's a good personality for that room.
I've talked to him a little bit. He seems like, I think he's a little guarded with the media. He seems to be a good personality in the room. I know he and VC, I didn't realize this, but he and VC grew up together, and played youth hockey together. So they go back a long, long way. And that line actually between him, VC, and Kreider is 3 Boston guys. I actually thought that, that Trocheck was from Pittsburgh. He's born in Pittsburgh, but I guess he grew up in Boston. So
I think Trocheck's a good addition to his team. Now I got to talk about soccer. You're a big soccer guy. You've got me to watch a little bit of it. I watched the World Cup for Team USA.
See, the World Cup is where it's at, man.
Yeah, no, I watched the USA games. They let me down, but it's all right.
I think the USA did quite well for themselves, actually.
They did. I was hoping they'd beat England. That was my big. I was like, let's beat England at least. Let's knock those.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. But England was good. England was really good, and I thought the USA played well. So,
I did watch the end of the final. I turned it on because I thought, NFL Sunday would be starting soon. And I ended up catching the end of the soccer game. It was 2-1, and I guess they just scored. And then, I mean, I tell you what, if every soccer game was like that, I'd watch every day. I mean, that was electric. That was electric.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
That was cool. Yeah, no, it's funny that the way you put it like that. That's the World Cup, though, right? Like, that is the highest of the highest level. And my wife, I covered the World Cup back in 1998 in France, and my now wife, who was then my fiance, came on the company dime to go see France and whatever, and just to see what what the city was like, what Paris was like and what the country was like, and people get so excited about it, and that's generally genuinely part of what makes it exciting is that everybody is really, really into it. Going to an MLS game at Red Bull Arena is not the same thing as watching, Leo Messi in penalty kicks in the World Cup. So, if every game was like that, you'd watch every game, but every game's not going to be like it can be.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I saw went to Yankee Stadium for NYCFC game. I saw one of those. It was good. I mean, it's exciting, but not like that. That was incredible. That was awesome.
That was something else.
I think soccer needs to move to a smaller field. It's too much stuff. There's too much space. Like hockey. Yeah, get it smaller a little bit.
Yeah.
Get a little more, I just don't like the theatrics of the. That's rough.
That's a legit thing. I hear that complaint a lot, to be honest with you. Like
it's like watching an NBA game. It's bad.
Guys, well, I think soccer players have been doing this for a long time.
They've been doing it
to another level here, Yeah, guys go down and it's like, oh my God, he's severely injured. He might never play again.
2 minutes later, he's running like 25 miles an hour down the field. I saw someone said that, I forget who it was on Twitter. Another hockey guy was like, the World Cup, the only place you can see a guy get shot from the stands, go down and get back up 2 minutes later, and run 25 miles an hour down the field and score a goal. Like, it looks like that clip by someone, the way they go down sometimes. It's incredible.
Yeah,
but no, it was fun. It was fun to watch.
That's what I said. Like, when Keandre did that against Philly, it's like, I've seen that in soccer, but I've never seen it in a hockey game. I've never seen a guy get tripped and fall down and get back up and go score. It happens in soccer all the time.
Well, Colin, thanks so much for coming on. Hopefully you guys have a great holiday over there.
Yeah,
and we'll get you on again soon, and hopefully the Rangers can keep this up.
Yeah. at least from here, like just be what they were supposed to be. I think that's all anyone wants.
Any bold predictions? I know you like making bold predictions before I let you go.
I like making bold predictions?
You love making predictions and you like making guarantees about such. So let's hear it. What did I get you to go? Oh, I did the over-unders with you. I made you do those.
I'm not sure I like making bold predictions. No, I don't really have any bold predictions. In terms of the Rangers, I certainly don't. But I tell you what, I am excited to see, and it's still a long way away. We're still 50 games away or 49 games away from it. But I would be really excited to see Rangers, Islanders, and Devils in the playoffs. I think that would be really hot. And I would sign for that today if I could get that.
No, I'm just putting this out in the universe. In 1994, the Rangers defeated both those teams on the way to Stanley Cup.
Easy now. That 94 team was a lot better than this team, in terms of, the known quantities and stuff like that. Let's not.
I'm not saying they're better than them. I'm just putting that in the universe, Colin. I'm just saying it, hey, the same. Hey, listen, the Knicks and Rangers have both won 7 straight. The last time they did it was 6 in a row was the most they've ever done. Also 1993-94. Just saying. Finals for both teams.
All right. I'll keep an eye on that.
You never know. It ended in an OJ car chase, so maybe it didn't end up too well for everybody, but still a pretty good year.
Yeah, a very good year. Yeah, that was the last time. You know what? That really was almost the last time hockey was a big thing in our area. And then they had the lockout after that. It never came back the same. So, maybe we're building something.
I hope so.
That would be cool.
I hope so. Hey, the women's team in there that plays in New Jersey, they're getting more money there. The Metropolitans or the
is that right? The Riveters?
Yeah, the Riveters. Yep, they're getting more money for next year. That league's growing, so hopefully hockey is up on the rise. And
let's do that.
Hey, and soccer, I'm sure is on the rise. Got World Cup coming here. I'm sure you gotta start weaseling your way in there with Newsday and figure out how to get your press cast already.
I gotta figure out how to get myself involved in that one. Yeah, you're right.
Start laying the work down on Newsday now. Like, hey, listen, World Cup's coming up. I can start doing puff pieces now on them. The USA soccer is hot in the
backyard, man. I live in Jersey. It's all good.
Exactly. Just leave a door open. I'll just walk in. I'm good to go. Oh man, Colin, happy New Year though, buddy. Thank you so much for always joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Anytime you need me, just reach out. I'm here for you. I love it.
Thank you so much to Colin for joining us. As always, he's the best. One of our favorite guests As always, our listeners love listening to him and all his insights. And I can't thank him enough for always making the time to come on, especially now, busy holiday season with the Rangers wrapping up here and everything else going on and everyone else's personal lives. I can't thank him enough for giving the time to me. So thank you to Colin. One of the best. And obviously, go check out his articles on Newsday. He does a great job covering the team. Excellent writer. So thank you, Colin, for coming on. And that does it for episode 111 of the Broadway Hat Podcast. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary this last week. So thank you to everyone who reached out. Outstanding, response from some of our listeners. So thank you so much for all the well wishes. And it was very cool to hear some great feedback from some people. So thank you for everyone for that. And listen, if it wasn't for these great guests like Colin, I wouldn't be able to do this show. So thank you to everyone who's ever come on the show and who's listened. Thank you. It really means a lot to everyone who reached out this last week. And make sure that you are subscribed to the show on Apple Podcasts. Go on there, search for the Broadway Hat Podcast, subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star review. We've received a couple 5-star reviews the last couple weeks, but make sure you keep them coming in, because for every 5-star review we receive, $3 is donated to Alex's Lemonade Foundation through the new year for the holiday. So please go on there, leave a 5-star review, help an amazing cause, help fight pediatric cancer. Thank you to everyone who's done that so far. Make sure you go and find the show on Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review there and subscribe to the show there. You can find the show on Amazon Music, Google Play, Pandora, Spreaker, anywhere you get your podcast, you can find us there. Make sure you find the show on social media on Twitter at Broadway Hat Pod, my personal Twitter account at KHallNY for all New York Ranger updates. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the Broadway Hat Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our new YouTube page, the Broadway Hat Podcast. We're rolling out a brand new series. I was hoping to do it last week. Unfortunately, my microphone broke. So it's going to hopefully be up this week or next week with Christmas. I'm not really sure with everything that's going on, but I have a new series coming out, which I'm very excited to share with everybody. And that'll be on YouTube only, on the YouTube page only. We'll be posting clips out on other social media stuff, but the full project will be on YouTube. We won't be releasing it, I don't believe, on the podcast listening pages. It'll just be on the YouTube. So make sure you go on there and subscribe to make sure you're there. And we post show clips, and we're going to be posting full clips as well, full episodes as well there. So just to keep you up to date on all updates of the show, go to the YouTube and find it there. But thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.